Okay. In response to a couple of requests and in honor of the new Insecure season, I decided to do what has been oft requested after I did my first video on my Octane series, which is the socioeconomic levels of Black females, which has been popular on and off. And for the last year and a half, or maybe even 2 years, a lot of my subscribers and followers have asked me to do a similar scale for men. And I don't think that I've done a scale for men that is different. So it might not map out as neatly as it does for women. For Black women, it's the Octane scale is over many, many years of observation. That's how come a lot of people can see value to it. Men don't map out as neatly because socioeconomically, men, a lot of the lines kind of blur. Like there's not that many women in blue collar work, especially for Black women. So if a working class woman has a pretty hard ceiling about how much she actually earns and the types of jobs she has, where a blue collar man, because a working class man is more blue collar rather than a working class woman, he might, a working class woman might top out at best maybe $40,000. If she's not in some kind of government service, a government service exempted, but she might at best top out at like maybe $40,000, where a blue collar guy can easily be in the six figures without a college education. So and a guy that has a master's or even a PhD can be down in the 50s. So a blue collar guy without a college degree can actually make more money than a white collar professional. That is the problem with using the same scale. It's not as neat. But barring that, I decided to go ahead and give an attempt to the Octane scale for men. Now, this is the Octane scale for men. Instead of 5, I have 4. I have, of course, at the bottom, we always start from the bottom, which is the poor, and I call the street dude level. Now, street dudes, or we call street niggas, for a lack of a better term, I kind of put most of them on the same side as, say, the diesel, which is for women, that would be the sex workers. Not because that the men, the street dudes are sex workers. What I'm saying is the street dudes it's like a parallel. It's like they have their own hierarchy because they're not part of the standard economy. So they work outside of it. They could be anywhere from street merchants to, not even street merchants, well, hustlers, drug dealers, lots of things like that, where they're outside of the standard economy. Just like the sex workers are outside of the standard economy. And they have its own level. But for here, the average street dude, I'm actually going to put them down, is along with the poor, along with the hood rat of the female. So 85 is the poor street dude. Working class, which is a broad level, but I'm going to give that the same parallel with the female, which is the 87. There is no 89 because there's a pretty hard gap, because these levels are fluid, but there's a pretty hard gap. So the 89 didn't make much sense, which is the corporate girl. Because most men in corporate jobs wind up into the professional level anyway. If they're corporate, they're very seldom work regular corporate jobs like phone service or, wouldn't even say sales, but they don't work the same corporate drone jobs that women do. So either they're professionals or, most guys that work corporate jobs normally jump up to the to the professional scale, or they fall down into the working class scale. So I'm including the mid-level corporate guys by income to the working class dudes, because a corporate drone that's male, even though he might wear a button-up shirt and pants and nice shoes, economically he still could put into the working class scale unless he's got a degree or he's educated. He's one of those professionals. That's normally where the skew is. That's like why I don't have a mid-level corporate dude. Next, obviously, is the professionals, those ones with degrees, the guys that make over, six figures, that are educated, blah, all the way up to maybe not quite the CEO level, but a high level corporate level. I would even put these guys well up to maybe even $1 million, maybe even $2 million a year, which is high, but those are your professional level guys, your 92 octanes. They don't quite have enough money to make it to what I call a baller status. I would say the baller status is either one or two things. Either you make maybe close to seven figures and over, or you have the status of being in the entertainment. When I say entertainment, that's either sports, music, actor, something like that, where you actually have the status of entertainment. But sometimes even say if you own your own business. No, I wouldn't say, even if you own your own business. But even if you own your own business, you're a business owner, you don't quite have the baller status, the male baller status, or what I call the masters of the universe. So those are your 92s. And obviously your 100 octane are that, your entertainers, your ball players, your all the other things where either you have a high level of visibility and status, or you're making over, I would say, you're making over 8 figures, $10 million and up. That is your jet setting, high functioning class, where I would say for the black community, it's less than 1%. This is your top of the heap of your 1%ers for the black community. So with that being said, now that I've explained it, the biggest question is, how does this map out to the females on the other side? Because this is the reason that they wanted a scale. What kind of octane female goes with the similarly statused male? Obviously, let's start at the top because that's the easiest. Baller women go after baller guys. Those gorgeous 8, 9s, and 10s look for guys of status. And the 8, 9s, and 10s that decided to live a baller lifestyle, because there are women that are 8, 9s, and 10s that fall down into the 92s and even all the way down to the 85s. You can have a highly beautiful woman that, because of her education and her social grace, cannot rise to the baller status, or can't rise up to the higher statuses of females. And those females will actually chase her out. You have some lucky ones that work their ways up into that baller status. Cardi B is one. In my opinion, Cardi B neither has the looks, nor the education, nor the social graces to actually be a baller chick. She happens to have worked hard, and she actually got granted into the baller lifestyle. But once you've been vetted as a baller chick and you have some status as a baller chick, then you can go from man to man in that socioeconomic scale. So baller chicks naturally automatically map on to the baller guys and vice versa. Now you have some bleed through where these guys and gals would dip down into the lower levels, but we're going to keep it funky. The vast majority stay at their level on both for obvious reasons. Ballers to protect their money, and with vetted women and these vetted women actually having access to the lifestyle that these guys can afford them. Dropping down, the 92, the professional CEO, what we call some women call the masters of the universe. These are the guys that have reached the top of the regular category. Okay, outside of the baller status. Baller status is a category unto itself. Okay, but as far as the first four women and the first three guys are the top of the heap. So these would be considered, in a regular terms, the masters of the universe. These are the high level, probably six-figure and up professionals that have actually either a high level master's or a PhD or something like that. So when a woman asks what do you do, where'd you go to school, blah 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 blah, these are the guys that they're looking for, and the 92s especially are looking for these guys. So obviously the 92 professional women who can't jump up to the baller status are actually mapping across to these high level guys. So the 92s obviously map on to these guys. The 89 females, who are the in-between, the ones that can't quite jump up to the 92s is as far as earning wise and professionally, these are the mid-level corporate chicks. These are the guys that they attain to actually grasp onto if they can. Because if they can grab one of these guys, it'll pull them up into the 92 octane status, which is why Issa was dating with Lawrence, because if Lawrence gets into the 92 status where he's up there with the high level corporate guys, where he can earn six figures, maybe even mid six figures, he can pull her up into the professional ranks where the circle of women that she is interacting with are in the same class, because she's educated. She probably has a bachelor's, maybe a master's, but professionally she can't rise up to the rank and have a professional degree. So the 92 octane guys are actually mapped out, gone after by the 89s and the 92s. And this is where the next step down is the working class, which is by far the broadest class. I would say the broadest class, because the 92 guys, the professional guys, are less than 10%. I would say of all the guys in the black community, the 92 guys are probably like maybe 5% of the community. The broader class is the working class dudes. Now, the working class dudes are the blue collar guys, no matter how much money they make. I'm gonna put them in the working class guys. So it could be a blue collar guy, now non-business owner, but a blue collar guy that's a non-business owner is making it $80,000 to $120,000 a year, maybe even $150,000 a year, or not 80. Let me say that again, from 40,000 to 150,000 as a blue collar guy. Now, along with that, you have educated guys, maybe corporate guys that make less than $70,000 a year. Less than $70,000 a year. Because you get 1 point for education and 1 point for earnings. Okay, if you make over $70,000 a year, I would say over $100,000 a year, and you're educated, then you are in the professional ranks as far as class. If you either make less than $100,000 outside $100,000, I say maybe even less than $80,000 a year, or you don't have a degree, you are in the working class. This is where it gets tenuous, and I'll come back to it later because it needs its own personal caveat. I want to finish the layers. Last but not least, and this is no shine on the guys, we have what we call poor. And poor guys, and I would say street dudes, just for lack of a better term, are the guys that I would say guys that make less than, I would say $25,000 a year. Less than $25,000 a year. I would consider those guys poor. not because they can't take care of themselves, but the thing is, they can't take on the normal duties of husband. So in other words, it's very difficult to raise a family of 4 on $25,000 a year. You need at least 40 in some places, but at the very least 50 in most places. 50 seems to be the norm of being able to take care of a family by yourself. And that is the criteria for working class. A working class dude should aspire to be able to take care of a family in a regular lifestyle, not an upscale lifestyle, but a regular lifestyle by himself with the job that he has. That is the working class guy. That is the epitome of what a working class guy is. If you are, you can still be working, but they call them the working poor. And the guy that makes less than $25,000 a year is what I call working poor. There's a gap, and the gap is because it depends on where you live. And I want a hard line. I would see less than 25,000. Depending on where you live, that could be less than 40,000. You live in California, you're making less than 40,000, and you could be part of the working, almost the working poor. Definitely less than 30,000. Without help, without teaming up with family or having a roommate or a wife working or something like that, making less than 30,000, you are going to fall below the normal median household of 46,000 for a working class or a working middle class lifestyle. So those are your 4 grades. And who maps on to poor are normally poor women and what they call hood rats, because the poor dudes that make less than 25,000 could going all the way down to dudes that don't even have a job. They can't function. And those are the mix. Unfortunately, it's a bigger bulk, not quite as a bigger bulk as, say, the working class is. Working class is anywhere from 40. I'd say anywhere from about 40%. So I want to say that the last 2 layers are the bulk, and depending on how you count it, the working class could be bigger than the poor class, or the poor class could actually be bigger than the working class, depending on how you count it. So I'm gonna give these 2 equal weight, but the bottom 2 are the vast majority of black people. The vast majority of black people, even amongst women, the vast majority of black people are the working class and the poor. And since the vast majority of women and men are in the working class or the poor, that's where the biggest pool of women are for men. So the biggest pool of men are there, even though we aspire to higher levels. But the vast majority of dudes map on to either the working class or even the poor, or the street dudes or the hood rats. That should be fairly obvious. So this is where we come into the contention between so-called educated lames, or even the working class dudes, and Pookie and Ray Ray, for lack of a better term. Because in my estimation, Pookie and Ray Ray actually permeates to all of the black community. All 4 levels of men have Pookies and Ray Rays. So you have working class poor Pookie and Ray Rays, working class Pookie and Ray Rays, professional Pookie and Ray Rays, and even, definitely at the baller status, you have Pookie and Ray Rays. Okay, definitely. In fact, the baller status is dominated by, in the black community, by Pookie and Ray Ray. Believe it or not, Pookie and Ray Ray have the top end, and Pookie and Ray Ray dominate the bottom end, in my opinion. But ain't that kicking head? So I know I'm gonna get some blowback over that statement, but I firmly believe it. And if you notice the behavior of the baller guys at the top and the so-called street dudes with Pookie and Ray Ray at the bottom, the behavior is almost exactly the same. Almost exactly the same. It's the people in the middle that have a different behavior, which is where the conflict comes in. But let's get into the contention, okay? Let's get into the contention and why there's so much confusion. And the confusion comes from two things, two people. Believe it or not, where the confusion comes in is from two places. One is the mid-level corporate girl, and also the working class, the educated corporate dude that can't get above a certain amount of money. The educated corporate dude that can't get over a certain amount of money. The educated corporate dude that can't get into the professional ranks, into the 92s, then he's stuck at the bottom half. Same thing with the 89 octane mid-level corporate girl. If she can't rise up into the 92s consistently, either by marrying a dude that's in the 92 or actually getting a professional degree, then she's stuck with the lower level dudes, just like Issa Rae is. Very nice parallel. She has to basically deal with the same dudes that the working class girls in the hood rat. Even though she is at the top level of this striata, this striation, they're at the top level. Same thing for the working class dude that has an education. He's at the top level of this striation, but since it's not recognized, them having the degree and all that kind of stuff, they have to operate just like the working class dude or Pookie and Ray Ray, because they're competing for the same values, competing for the same women. So when you get down there, it's an equal playing field. So 8s and below, they can't make it into the baller status on looks. They're stuck in their strata at the 89s and below. And what a lot of guys believe is that all these women should be in hierarchy in looks. In other words, Big Booty Brenda, who's a hood rat and poor because she looks good, should automatically map on to the working class dude that's educated. And she does it. These women actually, the 89s that don't make it to the top level, actually look at all these guys fairly equally, depending on what they need from them. Say it's looks, is it swag, is it money, is it whatever. So a working class Pookie or working class Ray Ray that happens to be a blue collar guy, he can pull the same woman that an educated guy can, and probably even better, because now it's about economics, it's about socialization, it's about a whole lot of other things. And this is where the contention comes in, because these guys that can't make it up to the either the professional or which is the masters of the universe, or the baller status, then they have to drop back down just like the 89 girl has to. And they have to what they call settle. They have to settle for lower level women and lower level guys. Repeat that: lower level women and lower level guys. So if you're a working class dude, you might say a working class dude makes $100,000 a year as a trucker, as a pipe welder, or anything of that sort. Just because he makes a lot of money, he still has to compete, because he does not have the status of being a professional doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. And he doesn't have the status of a high-level baller. High-level baller, you can't, if a working class dude can get to that 8-figure status and have a company and be able to jet his chicks in and out, or have a PhD where he has the prestige and he has the status of being doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, then he is still stuck with the lower level chicks, and he has to compete for chicks in the bottom 3 ranges. Most likely, say the corporate girl will try to find her a dude that's educated and makes, it makes maybe what she makes, like or more than what she makes, like $70,000-$80,000 a year. She'll try to find him, but the thing is, she'll have to compete with the working class girl who's looking at the same guy, and even the hood rat that's looking at the same guy, and vice versa. They all compete for the same guy, and vice versa. Say if you're an educated dude, but you can't make to the professional ranks, and you make less than $100,000 a year, or even like $80,000 a year, then you have to compete with the pipe welder, the cop, the fireman, or whoever that doesn't have the degree. I wouldn't say cop. Cops do have to have a degree, but the pipe welder, the trucker, you have to compete for the same women. And that's why it's hard to map on men to the socioeconomic status of women. Like the women, and the reason that they have the socioeconomic status of women is because women have cliques. They have cliques. Their friends, not their men, but their friends seem to be in the same socioeconomic range. But the men that they compete for depends on a different criteria. Women don't pick their friends the way they pick their men. Why it's difficult to map on an Octane series for men, for male-female relationships, because women do not pick their men the same way they pick their friends. They pick their friends according to the same socioeconomic status that they're in. Now, a 92, if she can't find a guy, if she's not pretty, if she's not 7 and up, she can't get a 92 dude, or even definitely not a baller dude. Can't get him. Can't get him. The vast majority of women that are 6 and below, vast majority of women in this 92 octane that are 6 and below can't get the higher level dudes. They have to drop down. They have to drop down into the lower levels and get men. They would love to map on 1-to-1 with a 92, with 92 guys, but a 92 guy has a more of ability to go down to the lower ranks and get women. They don't because of socioeconomic status. So they would like to go parallel and right straight across, or even get them a baller chick. But this is where it gets muddy. And guys on the other end, guys, as far as friends, men don't pick their friends by necessarily socioeconomic status. Sometimes they do. You run in the same circles. The baller guys definitely do, but say the game, or say a rapper, his crew can come from even a basketball player, a rapper, entertainer, actor, even a business guy can have friends from the lower levels. So he could be a baller dude, but he's going to have a crew that comes from the lower levels. So he picks friends by interest and trust, not socioeconomic status. So you can have a lawyer that meets up every week or twice a week to play ball with his friends that may or may not have graduated and got a professional degree, but they're still friends. Could be friends from high school that didn't make it. They're still friends. They're still buddies. They don't necessarily swap money and stuff like that, but they don't pick their friends by a socioeconomic clique, not necessarily. So the mapping doesn't map on. Sometimes it does if you can't get out of the hood and whatnot, but it's not as hard and fast as it is with the women. So that's how come you can't do an octane. But since people wanted it, people desired it, I've actually done it. It's confusing because it is. It's confusing because it is. And maybe I'll do a breakout for each one, like I did the women. Like I said, it's more difficult to do it, but perhaps I'll do. But if there's interest of doing a breakout for each one, I might do a breakout for each one. It's actually harder. And I'm probably going to need more input from guys, because guess what? I've never dated men. So I don't have a clue. I have a clue because I'm a man, but I really don't know the ins and outs of dating status for each one of these levels, because I don't date guys. I know my friends. I have friends that come from the upper class, and I have them friends that come from the lower class. Even though myself, I am in that working class. Educated, but don't make enough money. I didn't make it to the professional level. And damn sure didn't make it to the baller level. Otherwise, you motherfuckers wouldn't be hearing me on YouTube. Okay? That's obvious. I'm not a baller. And like most black men, if you're working class, man, you know more than a few paychecks from being down in that lower level. You never know more than a few paychecks from being down at lower level. And for not professional dudes, but upper class working dudes that make a lot of money, you know further from having one mistake of dropping down into the lower class. The street always has its pull. You know, just like everything sinks according to gravity, just the same way the hierarchies are for men. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is my initial grasp at octanes for men. I know there's going to be pushback. I know because it's not perfect, because unlike women, this is fresh. I haven't observed this over 20 years, and I doubt that I'll be around long enough to actually observe this one and actually shepherd this theory for you guys. So with that, I'm going to jump off. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one.